The Union Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry has set up a 14-member committee headed by Amitabh Kant to examine issues related to stalled real estate projects across the country and also recommend ways for their completion. Now, we hear this committee is holding its first meeting in the coming week. So today on the Property Show, we ask a panel of experts, what should this committee be looking at to clear the hurdles on various stuck projects? Now, before we go into the discussion, here's a quick recap of what has been the progress made on stalled housing units so far and what have been the methods which have worked. Now, the first and most successful has been the Swami Investment Fund, sponsored by the Ministry of Finance, which has completed over 20,000 homes since inception in 2019. Now, this fund is saying that it will complete about 1.72 lakh units over the next few years. Now, Supreme Court has come as a knight in shining armor for many of the projects, but mainly for Amrapali, where 40,000 plus stuck home buyers have some hope because the court has appointed NBCC to oversee the completion of the projects. NBCC received the permission to build and sell extra 5,000 flats, which would give them enough money to complete the stuck units, and PSU banks have agreed to infuse capital for the completion. Several stuck projects have also gone under the resolution process by NCLT under the IBC law, like the JP Infratech project, which has been awarded, the entire project has been awarded to Suraksha Group after a long drawn insolvency, of course, process. There have been many cases of a stronger developer taking over a stuck project of a weaker developer to complete it. Tulip Group took over Arohan project from Vipul Limited. Suntech acquired Orbit Corp project in Mumbai, and there are many more. Finally, Section 8 of RERA empowers the home buyers to come together and complete the remaining construction work. Lotus Panache in Noida, Inspirewood in Gurgaon are few examples where allottees have come together and decided to pool money and bring in a project management consultancy to complete their projects. Despite this, the government has felt the need to set up a committee to look at the issue with a fresh eye and help complete the remaining projects. Last count was done by ANAROC at the end of May 2022, which said there were 4.8 lakh units which were launched before 2014, which are worth 4.48 lakh crore. These remain still stuck in various construction stages across India. So, what should the committee be looking at and how do we get a resolution? Joining me to answer this, Niranjan Hiranandani, Managing Director, Hiranandani Group, and Santosh Agarwal, CFO at Alpha Corp Development. Okay, Mr. Hiranandani, Supreme Court, Insolvency Act, NCLT, Swami Fund, several ways, even under RERA, buyers can come together, yet the number remains staggering. So, what would your message be to this committee? What should they prioritize, sir?
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you for inviting me for this discussion. It's a very, very important view, and I'm glad that the Government of India has decided to appoint a person as eminent as Mr. Amitabh Kant to really take up the issue seriously. As you have already mentioned, we had represented to Government of India that we needed the Swami Fund, and the government accepted it, where I believe the total size of the fund has been 25,000 crores, and I understand that 10,000 crores were contributed by the Finance Ministry for the purposes of setting up the fund. My view is that such a fund has been extremely correct, right, and has actually been able to work out a large number of deals. But the total size of the fund is too small for the kind of problem that we have in India. I have spoken to several banks and financial institutions, including HDFC, including ICICI, including Kotak. All of them are ready to set up equivalent funds equal to the Swami Fund, if not bigger. And there are investors ready to put in this money for the purposes of funds for completing the projects that are there. So if we can get 1 lakh tenements completed by the Swami Fund over a period of time, and having 4 lakh, we need 3 other funds equivalent to that of 1 lakh crores each in order to really solve the problem in completely. However, this could be one of the good routes that can be done. However, the banks are speaking about that the same facility which has been given for the last mile funding under the Swami Fund because that means the last in, first out in terms of investments would of course have to go to the fund. Then and only then they will be able to complete it. But the best part of the fund has been, Manisha, is the fact that they calculate that they will need to invest the entire amount of money for the purposes of completion of the project, and they will complete the project even if not a rupee is received from the people who have bought out the property. Now, we don't all the projects do not need that kind of, what should I say, specification. And many of the fund projects which are stuck, if completed, a large amount of money during construction process would also receive from the project. So my view is that the Swami Fund is one of the best examples to do so successful. And also if the finance ministry can give the same facility to the other funds also to start.
Mr. Hiranandani, I'm sorry, I never ever interrupt you, but here's Irfan Qazi who came on the show and he said, funding is not a problem. I have gone through CREDAI and Narredco. I have asked developers to come forward, tell them that if they want to apply for Swami funding, it's just that those projects need to meet our terms and conditions. What is there anything unusual in the terms and conditions, something difficult that there are not many more developers coming forward? They're saying we are actually accepting almost all applications which are coming to us if we find it viable.
Now, I think the major problem is the funding agencies which have already funded the projects have a big problem with the Swami Fund, because an NOC is required to be given to the Swami Fund, which means the last in, first out in terms of it, so that they would be the priority agency to receive the money on the completion of the project. So I think many of the financing agencies do have a problem. That's why I want multiple funds to be created by different agencies, because different projects require different type of mindset to get it completed, and the country is very large. You can't expect one fund to solve the problem of India. We need maybe half a dozen funds.
Okay, so you're saying the first message from you to the committee is that allow more financial institutions to set up similar funds who could perhaps come out with more creative solutions similar to Swami Fund, but not exactly the same, looking at different kinds of projects which are stuck. That's a great solution, sir. But I'm going to still stay with you because the government of India did turn to you for a resolution of a very large stuck developer, which is Unitech. What happened there, sir? I mean, it's been 15 years and 6,000 buyers stuck. Why could we not find a resolution? Supreme Court has also said that, you know, you told Noida Authority to waive off some of the dues and interest charges, increase the FAR. Why is the needle not moving on that? Are there any learnings from it? This is not to point any fingers. This is just to say, why was it stuck, and can the committee have some takeaways from this case?
Yes, I think, Manisha, you've flagged a very, very important point. And I can tell you that there are many issues which have not been resolved between Unitech and the government authorities in terms of what is required to be paid by Unitech, even in the kind of resolution process that it is done. And because of that difficulty, it has been difficult to take off the thing. I think the government agencies also need to make a compromise in the amounts which they are receiving and the timing of the amounts that is required to be done, because a large amount of payment is required to be done to Noida and Greater Noida and these authorities, and that makes some difficulty. So overall, if you look at it, I think a more cooperative outlook is required by both the things, both the company as well as by the agencies, in order to work out a resolution and sit across the table and find solution. And I think a mediation in this process is needed by the highest authority in the country.
All right, sir. I'll come back to you. Santosh Agarwal, your company is one of those that have come out and tried to be a part of a resolution proceeding. Inspirewood's case, what do you think are the challenges that you had to face, and what should the committee be looking at?
So, Manisha, what we experienced is the understanding by the agencies. We never faced the issue of funding for the construction of these projects. the major issue which we are finding is the acceptance of these resolutions by various authorities. And as rightly said by Hiranandani sir, that people need to compromise somewhere. What agencies are doing, since different laws are there, different ways of resolutions are there. Noida Authority prescribes a different way. If you come in Haryana, the Haryana authorities talks about their own law, that in my law also there is a provision of resolution. If you go on RERA, there is a section 8 which provides for the resolution of these kind of projects. If you come on the IBC, there is a separate process for resolution. So there are too many ways, and people are not being guided properly that how to follow a particular process. Even if I am going to various authorities as of now, according to them, there is no enabling provision in their own law which recognizes this kind of resolution plan. If you go to environment authorities, they talk about their own law that, in my law, there is no provision to accept this kind of resolution. So you have to start each and every process parallelly again. So the time taken in all this, so there is no guideline how to actually, if the projects are what we call as a brownfield project, how to get the environment clearance done. So they issue a new terms of reference. If you go to various authorities, they take a different stand. So there has to be a guideline. If a particular project is coming out of a resolution, how each authority has to perform. Even if this is coming out from the IBC, then how the IBC order would be implemented. Here what's happening, even if you are getting your resolution plan approved from the NCLT, the other authority is going in an appeal against that you can't give this kind of waiver. Since I am governed by a separate law, so you can't go and actually override my law. So this is a kind of, cascading effect which is coming out. Wherever we are going, we are finding these kind of problems.
Wow. Okay, let me come back to you, Mr. Hiranandani. This is the crux of the matter, and this is what the committee needs to look at, isn't it? I mean, what Santosh is saying is funding is not a problem. The problem is that I may get the home buyers on board, I may get even a resolution from the courts or from NCLT under IBC. Yet when it comes to implementing it, there are just too many roadblocks, there are too many moving parts, and we don't have any kind of agreement on, let's say something like, let me address the big, elephant in the room, the housing land cost dues that somebody like Noida Authority and Greater Noida Authority refuses to let go, so much so that 1.65 lakh home buyers who have completed units are unable to get occupancy and completion certificates. Forget about those which are stuck. So how do we resolve? Isn't there a strong message to be sent to the committee that you need to bring all of the government authorities on board? It's not money which is an issue here at all.
Manisha, you've hit the nail on the head. A large number of such cases are languishing, especially in the NCR region, which have this kind of problem. We've identified it earlier. We have represented through NAREDCO, through PREDAI, to various authorities in the government, at the state level, at the center level, that this needs to be reconsidered in terms of whatever it is, because the kind of penalties and other things that are required by delayed projects, and many of them are not delayed due to the fault of the developer alone. There are various litigations which have been filed, and this has also created a problem for the development to get complete. And there are issues that we're doing. So what you're saying is right. We need to get conciliation systems to be created, not only between the developer and the buyer, but also between the planning agencies and the government landowning agencies, as to get a conciliation done. I sat on a conciliation committee on Maharera in Mumbai for the purposes of a project in Pune, where about 500 buyers were stuck in a project which was with Kulkarni developers who was in difficulty, and also that Tata Capital had invested the money. they were the kind of lenders to the project. It took a long time convincing all the agencies, including Tata Capital, to come and do the construction, but we finally managed to do it. But it was a long, winded process, required lots and lots of meetings in order to get everybody on the table. But many of the government agencies are quite difficult to change their attitude, and they are not willing to actually compromise. So I think an empowered committee for the purposes of conciliation on such land matters especially, which lands are on lease or on various terms and conditions that are being given. And the horrendous story which you have said is absolutely nonsensical, where lakhs of people are waiting for getting the occupation certificate to get a house. I think, forget the committee report or anything. Our government needs to intervene and solve the problem immediately. Fortunately, the political party, both at the state and the center, are the same. I think they should sit down on the table, and if they can solve 1 lakh plus people's solution after your TV program is over, I think you would have done a great deal of service to society. And it's an easy solution. I don't think there's much of a problem to do it, actually. So I think we need to instigate this. If Amitabh Kant can do it, wonderful. But I think we can even do it before that.
Okay. Quickly, Santosh, if you were to just give me in 20-30 seconds, no long drawn answer, what do you want the committee to do?
I want the committee to form guidelines for everyone to follow. Please understand, IBC needs more frame guidelines for real estate companies. All the laws should be made mutually exclusive. It should not be opposite to each other. That is the way we can achieve what Sir is saying. If we will not make this as a mutually exclusive, whatever committee comes, whatever we do, we won't be able to achieve a dream home peoples. So that is what I want to communicate.
Santosh, thank you very much. Mr. Hiranandani, thank you very much for joining us today. When we return, will India's luxury housing market continue to have a dream run in 23-24? Stay with us.